This is Creepy and Geeky, a part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcast Network. Welcome to Creepy and Geeky. I'm your host, Robert, and today's episode is the epilogue of the MCUs Infinity Saga, Spider-Man Far From Home. Joining me for this episode is returning guest Donna the Dead, who is no stranger to these parts, obviously. Donna is the host of her own horror podcast, also called Donna the Dead. Welcome back to the show, Donna.
Well, thank you for having me. I always come back.
You do.
I don't know what it is about you, but whenever you ask me, I'm like, sure, I'll come on. Sure, I'll come on.
That's awesome. I love it because I love all of my guests, but I mean, it's got to be obvious right now you're my favorite guest. So, I try to get you on as much as possible.
Aw, that makes me
Yeah.
feel really good, because most people get annoyed by me after about 4 or 5 episodes, but you just keep bringing me back.
Hey, your podcast was my favorite podcast of the year, according to Spotify. So, it makes sense,
Well,
so.
now that you say that, your podcast was my favorite podcast of the year. So what can I say? We love what we do, and we love
Exactly.
listening to each other, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. We obviously don't get tired of talking to each other or listening
No,
to
and
each
I
other.
learned so much when I listened to your show, so I
Oh,
I
thank you.
really enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that people are enjoying it, and I hope that they're learning stuff. I don't put out too much of information that I think other people don't already know.
Mhm.
And I fly by the seat of my pants, and I do these with no notes totally. And it's just, a fun conversation is what I like to do. And so I'm glad that you and other people are enjoying it still. And that's what's most important to me is that
Yeah.
one, I have fun doing it, and two, that there's a few people out there who are enjoying it enough to keep coming back.
I'm
So
pretty sure it's more than a few, Robert. I'm pretty sure you got a good crop of people here that really enjoy, because it is a fun conversation. It always is, no
right.
matter who the guest is, and the themes. I love the series that you do. So, man, just keep doing it
Awesome.
because you inspire me. That's all I can say.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And again, I'm always going to be getting you back on. So I hope people, the other guests or the other listeners aren't tired of you yet, because it's not going to stop anytime soon. That's all I've got to say about that. But yes, today we are talking about the epilogue to the Infinity Saga of the MCU, Spider-Man Far From Home, which came out, it's the movie directly after Endgame, and it kind of like deals with some of the aftermath of people dealing with the post blip world, mostly Spider-Man and his friends. And this one's a fun movie, and it finally brings in like probably my favorite Spider-Man villain, which was Mysterio. He's tweaked a little bit, so he's a little bit different from his comic book
Hmm.
origins. But it worked okay. And I was down for it. So, and of course, Jake Gyllenhaal playing him, a former almost Spider-Man himself. So that's was pretty cool to get him into the Spider-Verse.
It's kind of funny that he
So
was almost Spider-Man and he was almost Batman at one point too. And I
was
was
he
like,
interesting? I didn't know about the
yeah.
Batman.
Apparently Nolan was thinking about him for
Interesting.
and I was like, that's weird. He would have been
That
in
is weird.
DC. Yeah. I couldn't imagine that, but I'm glad we
No,
got
I
him
don't see
here.
him. Yeah. No, he plays Mysterio very well. So I'm happy with what we got. So, but yeah, no, this movie is the Spider-Man, the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies are some of my favorite of the MCU movies. There's just something about Tom Holland. I've talked about this a couple of times already on the show, that Tom Holland is the best Peter Parker and Spider-Man to me um better than any of the other ones. I will take no arguments. No, but I mean, people could argue all they want, and it's great to have your own opinions on it and everything, and I'm here for it. But I just feel like he pulls the whole package together better than the other two did. So
He gives it a lot of heart. Not that the other
yeah,
two actors didn't, but yeah, there is something about his overall performance and,
right,
the kind of, I don't know, there's something about him. He seems, very youthful. I mean, he is young, but
yeah.
there's just something about, that glint in his eye and, when he's sad, and he brings so much to this character. You really do feel like, he's right out of the comic book. At least to me, it does.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think and his supporting cast is well rounded out. And especially in this one, you've got not just Ned, like you had in the first one, but you've
Right, his
got
guy in the
Ned, you've
chair.
got yeah, you've got Ned in this, you got MJ, you've got a couple of the other kids. Flash is more prominent in this one again.
Hmm.
And then you got the two bumbling teachers. Um, it's just the cast is well rounded. We got Sam Jackson in this one, like in a pretty in a much heavier role than in a lot of the other MCU
Hmm.
movies that he pops up in. So and it's always good to see him getting to play around some more. I feel like for Sam Jackson being the probably the most important character in the Marvel universe, um, the person who brought the Avengers together, that he has gotten so little screen time.
Hmm.
And it's just bothered me that he hasn't been in more of these movies. So yeah.
I mean, he's such a badass. You want to see more of what
Right.
Fury is about. I mean, it's easy to call the shots, but we want to see him, get down there and get dirty. At least
Right.
I do.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, every time he comes, like, I am a huge Sam Jackson fan. I will watch him in pretty much anything.
Right.
Um, but and to be fair, I haven't seen him in everything he's done. It just kind of depends on the role or whatever, the project that he does. But I love that he picks projects based on how much it's going to entertain him to do.
Yep.
He's gone on record saying he doesn't care about awards, he doesn't care about box office. He cares about whether or not he finds something interesting in the role. And that's why how we've gotten him to be like this mega actor in so many franchises and in so many other people's stuff, because he's a recurring Tarantino player. He's
Mm,
been in multiple of the Star Wars movies, multiple of the Marvel movies. He's just everywhere. And he's always having fun. I
yeah.
mean, the
You
fact
can
that he
tell he
made
is.
snakes on a plane work, um, says a lot. So, but yeah.
I was just thinking
Sorry, I didn't
about
mean
the
to get.
Spirit. He was in that movie and was like, oh, that movie
I
is.
need to rewatch that one because I remember the movie not being great.
It's not, but you can tell he really enjoyed that part for
Yeah,
whatever reason.
yeah,
And Kingsman, all of those
yeah.
things.
I was gonna say like his role in the Kingsman in the first Kingsman movie, like that is like commits to a role like with this different speech pattern and everything,
Hmm.
and it's just it's so fun to see him do different things and try different characters and just be silly and weird just for the fun of it. Um, like the Hitman's Bodyguard movies, like those are so weird,
Oh
and
my
but they're
gosh.
they're so fun. Him and Ryan Reynolds playing off each other is so great. So just a lot of fun.
So yeah, seeing
Uh,
him do a lot more in this one,
yes.
I agree with you. It was a lot of a lot of wow. I was just kind of like, wow, we really get to see him do stuff, and like he's in a bunch of scenes, not just the beginning or end credits. This is
Right.
amazing. Um, and I love that you said it was what we get to see, after the blip. The intro to
Yeah.
this had me just completely cracking up in the high
Right.
school with the little news.
Yeah.
What is it? The little anchor kids talking about it, and
Yeah.
she's talking about the blip world after the blip, and just their commentary on it just had me like floored. Because I remember being in high school and having those stupid,
Right.
teenage put on news programs. They don't care, it's just something to do, so they get extra credit. But
Right.
the two of them had me rolling, and the little homage they did to all of the fallen heroes. I was dying. I was just like, I know this is supposed to be serious, but no, it was
Yeah.
horrible. Um, but this one was cute, and I don't know. I don't know if I love this one as much as I love Homecoming. Like I really just
Mm,
have so much
okay.
fun with Homecoming. This one is a lot of fun because we get to see Peter stretch out a little bit more, and we can see that the world is. He already knows it's dangerous, but now, he doesn't have Tony to kind of tell him how to go in the world, and he's got to
Yeah.
try to grow up a little bit in this one. So,
Well, yeah,
um,
he loses. This is all about losing his father figure,
yep,
and glomming onto a new one. As somebody who he thinks can, fill that role for him in a way. Somebody who positions himself in that way, in that role to dupe him. And it's
and he
it's great.
does.
And
Yeah.
that's what's so fun too, is like for people who don't know Mysterio and don't know who the character is in the comic books and everything, and you're just going to the movie and you're just being introduced to these characters for the first time. It's so much fun as a comic book fan to just sit back and just wait for everybody to get the reveal. And because it's always, when it hits so hard. Um and just but if you know who Mysterio is going into it,
Right.
um you're in on it. You're just like, okay, when's it coming? When does the shoe drop? um but yeah, that's what made it a lot of fun. And Mysterio is such an interesting character because in the comic books he's actually a um a special effects artist, and he uses like practical effects to do everything that he does, rather than using these drones that kind of
Right.
create holograms around him. He does everything himself in his suit. There's like gases and stuff like that. He uses gases that will disorient your senses. And they mess with Spider-Man in the comic books. They like
Hmm.
mess up his spider sense and everything because he doesn't know where the things are coming from. And he creates these elaborate um rooms and stuff like that, similar to kind of what the character Arcade does in the comic books as well.
So
um
with them changing it from
yeah.
how it was in the comics, were you okay with the changes? I mean,
Yeah, I'm always okay with the changes that they make with the MCU because I know they have to do things in a way that um makes sense to that world.
hmm
So as much as I'm like, would have been cool to see him be, a special effects guy that's using hologram technology. That would have been cool.
hmm
But it made sense in the framework of the MCU to make him the guy who created the barf, as it was. So
I was really glad when I initially saw him on screen, and you of course you see the old school fishbowl helmet. I was just like,
yes.
okay, this
Oh my
is
God.
so
Yes.
nice. You really just they always have a way of making you feel like you're a 12-year-old again when you watch these movies. It's like, oh my God, this is perfect. But I'm like you. I like the changes that they did, and now we get to see there's a whole team of people kind of working
Yes.
together because, they've all been crapped on by all of these
By
people in
Tony.
Tony
Yeah.
Stark's world. And
Yeah.
it was very nice seeing Peter Billingsley again, if
Yes.
he was working with I can't remember the gentleman's name. Is it Obadiah? Oh, what am I?
Yes. Obadiah Stane. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't remember his name all the way, but it was nice to see them showing that little flashback. Because when I saw him, I was
Yes.
like, "Oh my gosh, he's going to be the same character? That's amazing."
Yeah.
That was nice. So it's like they tied all of these little things together, and then you see
Yes.
why they have this huge vendetta and what they're trying to do, and they
So
get
it
a.
was
a collective
No, go
group
ahead.
of evil people.
Yeah. Well, and
How
I
does that
love that little
happen?
bit. I love that little bit when they do that too, where they show you the clip from before, and they just kind of go, okay, this happened back then. It's kind of like in the comic books, like previous to maybe the 2000s, they used to do this little thing, like they would make a reference in a particular issue, and they would make a reference to something that happened in some other comic book issue, and then they would put a star next to it, and then at the bottom
Right.
there'd be a
At the
footnote, and it'd
bottom.
say,
So you could go to that
see
comic
Amazing
to read it.
Spider-Man number whatever. And so then you could go back and read that, and so you could get that
You could
backstory.
piece it
And so I
together.
love
Yeah.
that that's kind of what they do in the movie, is they kind of do that, but they show you the scene. And
Yeah, it's
so
really clever. That was
yeah,
really clever. Um,
it's yeah.
so this one was cute because, our teens are going on a trip and Peter is just gonna, he's gonna go ahead and finally tell MJ that he is crushing on her.
Right.
I I felt so nervous for him the whole movie, and it wasn't because he was in peril. I was just nervous for him because I knew he was going to try to open up his heart to this girl, and he wasn't sure. I think that's what Holland does to you. You're like, oh my God, I'm rooting for this kid. Please let this girl like him.
No, he does such a good job at playing both Peter and Spider-Man that you see the vulnerability in Peter. Um, when he is just Peter, and he's pining after MJ, and he's dealing with Ned and Ned's new relationship, his summer relationship or
Oh my
trip
gosh.
relationship, because it's only like that trip's only like 10 days,
10 days.
and
They
it's
fell in
so funny.
love and broke up, and like they were a married couple by the end of the
And
movie.
it's
It's
such a
so cute.
funny, it's so funny too, because it's how relationships are when you're a teenager too. Like you can run the gamut of a whole relationship in just a week. Um, and it's just it's hilarious. And that's what I love about the writing in these movies too, is they do a good job at getting to that teenage level, and you having those insecurities and those weird things that kids do when you're a teenager. And
Mhm.
that and it's such a good cast that plays it off as well too, that they do. And MJ, Zendaya plays MJ really well. um I loved her as MJ, Michelle
Mhm.
Jones. But I really want a really as close to accurate Mary Jane Watson, at some point. I would really like that, because I don't think Kristen Dunst pulled it off well.
No.
She, to me, she was not Mary Jane, and it just always bugged me. Um, and so I would love to see somebody who plays that character, at least a version of the character that's closer
Mhm.
to the one in the comic books. And that's what's great about Zendaya having her character, is that it's not that character. She is MJ, but it's a different MJ, and so
Mhm.
she gets to be somebody different. Um, so it's a lot of fun. Zendaya just seems like she's kind of close to being like, she doesn't have to play much outside of her wheelhouse for
Right.
MJ. So
Yeah.
she feels very comfortable in that role.
Yeah, and you could tell that clearly she has feelings for Peter too, and
Yes.
she also has her suspicions that he might be Spider-Man, which
Right.
is very cute. The reveal in this movie, the way he has to reveal it to her, and I love her response because she's like, "Oh, I was only like 67% sure.
Right.
I wasn't really
She's like,
100%."
really? You're really Spider-Man? And he's like, yes, yes, but we gotta go.
Oh my gosh. But
No, and
it's
that's what's funny, because in the first movie she's barely in it. She's in there a few times. She's there for more comic relief than anything else.
right.
But she's obviously somebody who is interested in Peter. She hangs around him kind of on the periphery. Um, and just is, somebody who you think she's kind of interested in him, but meanwhile he's just all on Liz in that
Mhm.
first movie. And then he moves over to MJ wants, obviously there's some, because some time has passed and
Hmm.
everything besides the blip time where they both weren't there. But the time between Homecoming and Far From Home, they've obviously had a chance to become friendlier um and kind of grow their friendship more.
And I think too,
So
because she's such a nerdy kind of girl and
yeah.
a smart girl, she probably doesn't have too many other than what was the guy that kept trying to hit on her in this movie? I can't remember. Apparently
Oh, I can't remember his
he
name.
was younger than them when he blipped,
Yeah.
and then when he came back, he was like all,
Well, he didn't blip.
testosterone.
He
Oh no,
didn't
that's
blip.
right.
He grew
They
up.
blipped.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. And then when they came back, he was like all, full of muscles. All the girls are
Yeah.
swooning over him, and um he was just the worst because
He was the worst.
he
He
was
was just
he
always taking advantage of the situation and was just like, it was Brad. Brad was the guy's
Brad,
name.
that's what yeah, and he
Yeah.
kept trying to, defame
He was
poor
such a
Peter,
Brad.
took the pictures
Yeah.
and almost caused the bus to be shot at by drones because Peter was trying to get rid of the picture. Um
Yeah.
yeah, he was terrible, and I thought that was so funny because in his brain, he was probably very small when he had a crush on MJ, and now
Yeah.
he's, a super gorgeous man at this point that everybody should be swooning over, except MJ is not because she already has the man that she has a crush on.
Yeah.
Um, and you're right, the two teachers were just hilarious. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
JB
I
Smoove did not care about those kids one bit.
he's
He was there
no.
for the free
And
trip.
and Martin Starr cared a lot, but he's just so bad at wrangling
Oblivious.
kids.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man. No, and so here's the thing. I'm not a big JB Smoove fan. I'm perfectly fine with not seeing him in anything in the
Hmm.
future. Um like he's fine. He just I don't know. There's something about him that bugs me. But Martin Starr is hilarious in these. Um if anybody remembers, Martin Starr was on Freaks and Geeks like 20 plus years ago in the late
Hmm.
90s. So that's where I remember him from, that and Silicon Valley,
Yeah, he's really
which was a
funny.
fun show. Yeah. So yeah, he plays the teacher character. He plays well. So it's very funny. So um but yeah, they're both very inept teachers. They should not be the ones in charge of taking these kids on a trip.
Not to
All these
Europe.
kids are gonna die. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He
So I
even
will
admits in
say,
the first movie that he lost a student before.
not again. Yeah.
Yeah, not again.
Yeah, that seems like that would have
No.
just nixed his privileges of taking children anywhere at this
Right.
point. I want to know about the school. How do they rank their teachers? But what I love about this one too, I will say is that, we kind of see uh, Aunt May and Happy are kind of
Yeah. Have their own little
their
summer
summer
relationship.
fling.
Yeah.
And it's always good to see Favreau. He
Yes.
really is one of those characters. Whenever I see Happy, I'm just like, all right, I really really dig this character. He's bumbling, but he is very brave, and he always tries to help Peter when he can, and clearly has a crush on May. I mean, who wouldn't have a crush on May?
Right. Well, and it's funny too because Jean Favreau got a second life in the MCU
Hmm.
um through the Spider-Man franchise. So it's interesting to see him continue on with the same character and just kind of, become Peter's um not mentor, just more of a
Another prominent man in his
just
life.
another prominent man. Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody he can go to and rely on, especially in the wake of Tony's death.
Right.
And it's a connection to Tony as well. So it's somebody that he can have a deeper connection with now, after that. So
Yeah,
it's just
I thought that was very nice, that
yeah.
he would still come to his aid if he needed him, and
Yeah, and John
It's
Favreau is the one. It was the director who ushered in the MCU for us all with the first Iron Man movie.
Iron
So
Man, yeah. So it's apparent that he is a comic book nerd. So that's
yeah.
that's like he goes up like 10 points and for me just on that
Well, and now
alone.
he's
But
transitioned over to the Star Wars universe. He's doing the Mandalorian
yeah, now he's
and
got
all of
another
that.
10
So
points.
yeah, so he's like, dude is like all over the nerdverse, man. It's
Yeah,
it's
man.
it's
I'm
it's
fine with
it's
it.
very
Please
cool. Yeah,
keep
me
doing
too.
it.
He's doing good stuff. So I'm all aboard for everything he does. So very, very cool. Um, but yeah, um this is like it's interesting because the movie sets up this movie really is the movie that kind of gets the multiverse rolling. It's
Oh,
kind of the
yes.
bridge between the Infinity Saga and the Multiverse Saga, because it kind of plays with it, and says that these creatures that Quentin Beck is out there trying to destroy are from another parallel Earth,
Hmm.
or he's from a parallel Earth and he's trying to stop these creatures from destroying our Earth, um, that because they destroyed his, and so he's the last survivor of his planet and everything. And you go into this movie and you're like, oh my god, they're doing it, and then you get to the fucking end and they're like, oh, that's hilarious, we were just doing this like whole story about the multiverse and it's not even real and everything, and I'm like, you sons of bitches. I, I was like, I was all ready for it, and then they pulled the rug out underneath me, and I was like, you guys suck. And then they went fully into it after that, and I was like, okay, here we go now.
See, they heard your collective bitching in the universe and they said, "Oh, we suck,
Right.
do we? Let me just give you a little taste of this."
Oh man, yeah, no, and like they've seriously doubled down. Well, and they played with us a couple of times because they did it in this and they did it in WandaVision, where they make you think that um the Pietro in there is from the X-Men
Oh,
universe, that they
right.
brought him in, and then turns out to be somebody else, and you're just like, you guys stop playing with us and just like do it. And then Loki comes out and they're like, okay, we're gonna do it for real. And I'm like, finally.
So yeah, I will tell you that this one, the whole movie, I was just sitting here like, Peter is not this little guy anymore. We're seeing him having to be on his own. We're seeing
Yeah.
him basically fuck up. I mean, he fucked up royally,
Oh yeah,
and
bad. Yeah.
and he
And it
knows
comes
that
back to bite him in the ass.
right.
Big
But
time.
he does what Peter Parker always does. He's the plucky guy that stands up and
And he does the
does
right thing no matter
does the
what,
right
how much
thing.
damage it does to him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a certain point, like the comic books have gotten like terrible in my opinion lately, because they never seem to let Peter get ahead.
Hmm.
Like every time he gets a little bit ahead, they knock him back three more steps. Like,
Right.
he gets one step ahead and they knock him back three more. And it just like, to me, like I get he's got, the quote unquote Parker luck, and that he's always supposed to be sacrificing his gains in his life for the greater
For
good.
greater good. But God
That's what
damn,
he's
give him a bone though.
give him a fucking break. Like it
I
pisses
mean,
me off
geez.
so much that they just like pile on him, and every time he gets a little bit close, they fuck him over, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
good God, come on. Like, oh man, it's just taking away MJ in the comic books, and making her making them not married, and then then like this is gonna get wild, everybody, because if you don't know the comic books, shit gets weird. Dr. Octopus took over his body for years, um and became Spider-Man, and improved Peter's life. He got Peter his doctorate degree, and started Parker Industries, which was like a rival of Stark for a while, and had like done so much good for Peter's life. And then once Peter came back, took back his body and everything like that, everything went to shit.
Yep.
And it was just like, God damn, dude. Like, and this is why I have a real hard time reading the comic books anymore, because it no matter how much good he can get, they always knock him back down even worse. And I'm just like, it's boring to me at this point that they feel like they have to keep him at this really shitty status quo.
It sometimes it just feels very cruel because it's like this
Yeah,
boy, he does everything and he sacrifices everything time and time again, and it's just never, he can never have a long lasting ray of sunshine. There's always going to
yeah.
be rain no matter where he goes,
Well, and
which,
that was what killed me in the comic books because Mary Jane was his one ray of sunshine
hmm
for like the longest time. Like he just they got married, they got together, and they were having a good life. They had their ups and downs, like any married couple does.
right.
But then they took it away because they were just like, well, it's better if he doesn't have any happiness. And it's like, why?
Well, why?
Like that was his one bit of happiness. Why did you have to take that away? Like it just felt really mean and cruel and just and overall just dumb to the character. And they've tried to like they see like nobody like I don't know. It must be a Marvel mandate now that they're just like, oh, Peter and Mary Jane can never be together unless it's an alternate reality. And then,
Wow.
people are like, oh yeah, no, this is great. But nobody wants to like, because it's not the real Peter, it's not the real comic book. They're just like,
Right.
it doesn't do well enough. Because everybody's just like, yeah, can we have this in the regular title, please?
I mean, the only one, and this is not for this episode, but the only time that I get to see a happy Peter Parker is into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. It's like that's the
Yeah.
only time I get to see him with like, an actual win for once. Like,
Yeah.
please give this kid a fucking break.
But even, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's just, oh man, it's terrible. I just like, guys, let up a little bit. But that's, I mean, but at least in these movies, like you're not seeing him like obviously in the next movie he takes the worst
Oh God.
fall for everything. But in this one, yeah, he gets get knocked back, but then at the end he gets MJ and things are good. And they almost end on a positive note.
hmm
And until the rug gets pulled out under him. Um, but it's just but at least up until that point things got good for him again and it
Yeah,
was just like
things are
okay
really
things are
good.
good, yeah.
And
So
it's one of the things that I do love about it too is that these kids get to go all over Europe because of, well, first of all, they get to go over Europe because of Fury, changing the plans
yeah,
and all of these things. But it's interesting how everything is happening around these kids, and they all seem to be pretty resilient to any, none of them want to
yeah,
go home. None of them are like, okay, I'm ready to go home now. This has been not fun. No, they're not scarred. And maybe it's because they grew up in New York and they've seen superheroes and nothing phases them at this point. I guess it's like, for people who have TikTok, I don't know.
right, yeah,
Um, but for me personally, if it was me, I would want to be on the first flight out of there. I don't think I would have
right,
wanted to stay 1 minute, but Flash is always Flash, you know. Um, I find it funny in this one that Flash is like completely in love with Spider-Man, like he can do no wrong.
yeah,
And there's the one scene where he's like, yeah, Spider-Man makes me, believe I can be a better man. He stands
yeah,
for what's good. And then he's like, what's up, Dick? What?
yeah.
And I'm like, what sense did that make, sir? You just
Which is
made this,
keeping with the character of Flash Thompson in the comic books as well. So
and also a teen.
he hated Peter Parker but
Right, but
loved
he loved
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I don't
uh,
know. There's some things in this movie that I truly, truly enjoyed. Like you said, the romance between Ned and the little girl, that was just hilarious because you would have thought they were like an old married couple.
right.
Um, and just, Night Monkey, that whole
Yes, the whole night monkey thing was hilarious. I love that this whole thing happens because Ned is trying to cover for Peter, and they're like, "Oh, that's Spider-Man." No, 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 that's a European ripoff, night monkey.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, so good.
It's so, so good. Now, the one thing I do want to, and I maybe you can answer this for me, and I've only seen this movie a handful of times, maybe about 4 times, but um, why was it that Peter could never tell why was his spidey senses not working throughout the whole fight with the drones, do you think?
Um, I'm not positive. I know that I think that like the one in the one sequence that we get where he's kind of in the warehouse and he's just being completely disoriented. I
Hmm.
think that's just because of everything that visual wise it's overloading him
Hmm.
and it's kind of messing with him so fast that he can't that and we don't really get too much of his spider sense in any of these movies. They
Hmm.
never really pointed out although in this one they call it the Peter Tingle,
Right.
um which is
And I thought that
hilarious.
was funny because she threw the banana at him at the beginning
Yeah,
and then he didn't, kind of register. And then, of course, the Peter Tingle, and don't call it the Peter Tingle. Uh,
yeah.
so I was wondering if maybe that was some kind of foreshadowing that maybe because he's preoccupied thinking about Mary MJ and, what
Well,
he wants to say to her.
he said with the banana it was because it wasn't actually danger. So because it's just a banana hitting you, it's not like immortal danger, so your his spider sense didn't
So
clock
I'm
it.
curious if maybe that's why it never tingled with the all of the drones and all of the illusions that they were doing because they were never really in any real danger except for
They were never really real, so yeah.
it always used to bother me, and I had to throw that theory at you really quickly, like why did he not know? But once again, if they weren't in any real danger, and then when things were like the charges were going off, he was able to
Yeah,
dodge those and get out of the way. So clearly it was working
exactly.
on those things. Okay.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah, so
sometimes
I
I have to
think that
tough
whenever
these
there
things out.
yeah. Yeah, I think whenever there was actual real danger involved, then that's when his spider sense would go off and he would duck and move and do the things because you could see that
Right.
it would happen. He'd get knocked down sometimes, and even Spider-Man does in the comic books whenever his spider sense going on. He doesn't dodge everything. And you can overwhelm it too if
Hmm.
you know about it. You can just throw so many things at him at once that
It would
he
be
has no choice
impossible.
but to get hit. Yeah,
Right.
um, so, but you have to be aware of that spider sense in that way. And I think in this instance, though, too, is that um, Quentin knows that because he knows who Peter is.
Hmm.
He's probably gotten some extra side intel from Fury um, about what Peter can do. Because Peter, like Fury's going to have all the up to date notes on
Right.
what he can and cannot do. So, that may have been the other aspect of it too, is that, he knew enough to program the drones to overwhelm his senses. So, I mean, that's one of those things that's more like deep nerdery in there that like you don't, it's not super important to the movie, but
Right.
it's definitely fun to think about.
It's always one of those things that pops into my head. Like when I watch any movie, it doesn't matter what genre it
Yeah.
is. I'm always thinking of why didn't they do X, Y, Z? But that's why it's a movie, Donna. You have to let that go. Now I
Exactly.
do want to ask you, what do you think
Yeah.
about Edith and the choice that Tony gave this whole intel, this arsenal to Peter?
Like that was definitely a mistake. I mean, but here's my thing. Like as much as we like to think of Tony as this like really smart, really good guy and everything like that, Tony was a terrible person. Um he made a lot of mistakes that endangered a lot of people and
He
he
did.
always had to clean them up. Pretty much every movie and everything that happened was always him cleaning up his messes,
Right.
um, such as Ultron and Obadiah in the first one and stuff like it's it's the things that the sins of his past coming back to haunt him.
Hmm.
And I think that's he's obviously made terrible decisions, and that's I think what was happening with this as well. Um, and to be fair, I don't necessarily know that Tony was the one really putting that in his hands. Um, that could have been a Fury gambit. Um, because there's Fury may have had suspicions about Quentin Beck. Um, Obviously the Fury that we know wasn't Fury in this movie the whole
Right.
time. That we find out at the end that it's actually Talos posing as Fury the whole time. Um, Talos the Scroll from Captain Marvel. And so, but obviously Talos was in constant communication with Fury. So I would think that to an extent he was getting intel and direction from Fury to do what he needed to do, to
Hmm.
put that in his hand, to put that in Peter's hands, that maybe to get it into um
Quentin's hands.
Beck's hands, yeah, to see him overplay his move. Um I don't know that that's necessarily the case, because it does just put too much danger in everything.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a
it's
huge risk. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
it's a
a
huge
lot
risk,
of weaponry. And it's like,
but it's also it. But if it was Tony giving this thing to Peter, it just seems wildly out of character as well. Because Tony wouldn't let Peter have full access to his suit in the first one.
exactly.
They had to hack the suit to
That's what I
get
was
out of the
thinking.
babysitter protocol, so or the training
Right.
wheels protocol.
So that
So
does seem out of character for him,
it does.
especially when of all the people, Tony wanted Peter to be a kid too. So I don't
Right.
think he would have bestowed all of that responsibility on him.
You would
There
have
was a
thought that he would have given that to Pepper or Happy, first
exactly.
and foremost. Giving it to Peter seems like a weird thing. So I'm like, it's definitely a weird plot point in there that
Hmm.
kind of rankled me a little bit and was just kind of like, why would Tony do
Why
that?
would he do this?
But
Yes.
the ultimate thing that we have to remember is he did it because it was necessary for the story. So
No, I
so
will
we
say
just have to go, okay, whatever.
I do love the what the acronym stood for though, even dead, I'm the hero, because that does sound like a Tony thing.
That sounds like Tony. Yeah.
Oh
Oh
my
man.
goodness. Yeah, that was one of those plot points. I was just like, there is no way in hell. Like you said, Pepper would be the one that would have all
I
of
think
that.
Pepper
I
would have had it first. Yeah, first and
Right.
foremost, because she would have been the heir to everything
Everything.
Stark related. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah,
So
that seemed a little out of character for Tony, but like you said, it's the part of the plot, so we needed that to be
yeah,
the
yeah.
reason why everything was going on the way it was. But um yeah, this was nice. It was nice to have somebody else know that, Peter was Spider-Man and that it was MJ who kind of had a feeling of that's what was going on. I think she had a
Right.
feeling from the first movie.
I think so too. I mean, I think that's where she started to suspect, and that, because she observed him enough over the course of those years, that she's observant, she's smart, she goes to
Hmm.
that school with them. That school is a school for smart kids. So they it was, she could suss it out, and figure it out. And she did, even if she was only like 67%. uh but and then we get the great jealous moment between her and Ned, where Ned's like, yeah, I knew first. So
It's no big deal. I knew a long time, but
yeah.
it's good that you know too.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh
my
man.
goodness.
Yeah, no, and all the kids are great in this. Like, everybody's doing such a good job. And like you said, the Ned and Betty like romance subplot. It's a good thing to. It was a good way to sideline Ned, um, in a way, but also to give Ned his own story,
Hmm.
and have a fun little story in that um wasn't Peter specific. Um, and Spider-Man specific, took him off the board and had his own little side, plot that we could all have a lot of fun with. So it
Right.
was
And
good
then
to
he
see that.
still does give us all of that comic relief that we like, we
Yes.
said with the night monkey coming up with that name, and then we see Peter asking a woman for direction and she's like, "Oh, night monkey." It's like,
Yeah.
it's really, really cute. I especially love the part where Peter wakes up in the Netherlands and the police officer is wearing
He's
his
got the mask on.
telling his wife about Night Monkey on the phone.
Yeah. Oh, it's so
I was
funny.
like, it was just so, so funny. Everything about this movie was delightful. I did not see it in theaters. I wish I had.
Oh
But
wow, okay.
I didn't. I only saw the first one, Homecoming, and then I saw No Way Home. And
Okay.
yeah, so I wish I had seen this one in theater because I think I would have enjoyed seeing all of the
Oh yeah.
Mysterio and all of the elementals and, all of that on the big screen. But Jake Gyllenhaal, he never disappoints. And I
No.
normally can't really see him as a villain. I mean, but
Yeah.
he really had the mad, crazy villain eyes. I mean, he can't help it. He's got big eyes, but he's just, the maniacal, and then he's a good actor. Like his acting, um, as Mysterio, he had to really sell that shit, and he did. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's he did a very good job at at uh at playing this character who is, both the hero and the villain in equal measure in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
So, you get the chance of him playing the hero in a way, and then, the reveal that he's actually the sinister, really shitty villain. Because he's
Really
terrible
shitty.
even to his because he's
Even to
terrible
his
to
own
all of his
people.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, dude, calm down. If it weren't for
Like,
them, you wouldn't
yeah,
have been able to succeed at that.
he was really maniacal. I mean, I think at one point he even like pointed the killer drones at his people, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this guy is off the rails. I mean, I didn't expect him to be quite as creepy. At first I thought he was just kind of smarmy and, but really he was quite dastardly. He was he
Yeah.
was very terrible. Um, and what else? I did there was something I wanted to say about and the acting. So yeah, so him just kind of milking this plot, oh, I'm here to save this earth because, that's where I lost my family. That was his huge
Yeah.
selling point. That's where I lost my family. And it's like, dude, this is like Oscar caliber acting you're giving for this role. Um, but I really do love the kind of evolution that we get to see Peter, like our Peter
Yeah.
Parker is growing up. Things are changing. Uh, May is out here dating, and Peter's
Right.
not all that great about it. But, it was a nice bridge to what we're going to get the next film that you're going to be talking about. And um, it didn't disappoint. I mean, it was like a nonstop ride. This one was actually shorter, though. I think this might be one of the shorter out of the trilogy
Hmm.
of these films. It didn't, if it's not, it didn't seem to go as long. I think No Way Home
Definitely
seems,
breezier. Yeah.
yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it's just because it's lighter and not as heavy. Did I lose you?
Yeah. I mean, no, 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 no. Sorry. I went over to grab my Blu-rays real quick to check the times on them just to
Oh my
see.
gosh, you nerd, get out of here.
Let's see.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh. Maybe
I had to
once
find
again,
out.
you have to
Um,
find out right now.
yes, I did because we're talking about it.
What does it
Um,
say?
I'm trying to find out. Okay, so the first one was 133 minutes.
Mhm.
And the second one was 129 minutes. So it was 4 minutes shorter than the first one. And the last one was, where is it? Um, 126 minutes. That's very interesting because, oh, you know what? I picked the wrong movie. I grabbed Multiverse of Madness, not no, not No Way Home.
See, this is what you get for trying to be smart. Trying to find out how many minutes. 148 minutes is No Way Home.
There you go. That makes sense because I was like, wait, No Way Home is not shorter than either of those
There's
two
no
movies.
way. That
There's
movie was
no way that thing
bomb.
is filled with so much stuff. But yeah,
Anyhow, what can I say? I love this one. I love the
yeah,
end. It was nice seeing J. Jonah Jameson again.
yes,
Um,
yes.
I don't think anybody could ever play that role. J.K. Simmons just kills it every
I
time.
definitely somebody's gonna have to play it in the future. But he does such a good job at it. I was so glad to see him come back, and it was this nice little bridge to the next movie.
Hmm.
That we get this tease of, oh wait, there's somebody from the previous Spider-Man movies in this. Oh, I wonder what that could mean.
Oh my
And then they
gosh.
tried to freaking hide it, which was so dumb. Um, that's ridiculous, but never.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So I will say something that was really cute in this as well, at the as we were talking about the ending, was him giving MJ her first web ride across the city.
yes, yes,
That's exactly what it should be. It should be terrifying because they always make it look like, oh, Spider-Man's just picking these people up and it's okay. No,
yeah,
that would be
no,
terrifying.
yeah, it would be the scariest thing ever. Like, because he's doing the web and he's having to let go. It's not like he's just like swinging from thing to thing. He has to let go once in a while to do another one. So it's like, no, that's terrifying. Screw
And I
that,
love it because when he puts her down, her hair is like all fucked up. It's like the wind
right?
swept. So I
No,
mean,
it's
at
too
least they
funny.
kept that. That was a real moment. That would be me. It would be a moment of terror. Nope, not looking. I can't look. Let me know when you put me down. I do not want to see anything. So that was pretty cute. And then like we said, we get the reveal at the end. Mysterio, of course, was not going to go out without besmirching Peter's good name and letting
Yeah,
everyone know that he is Spider-Man. Um, which is kind of reminiscent of what we saw at the end of the first one when May
yeah,
realizes that he's Spider-Man. But now the
yeah.
whole world knows. Um, yeah, I did not like that. I
I
was
mean,
so
I
worried.
I liked it because I was like, oh my god, what are they gonna do with this? How are they gonna fix this?
Well,
Like,
first of all, here's the thing. They put his picture up. Okay, granted everybody in his school and his neighborhood will know who he is, but it's New York. He cannot be the only Peter Parker. He cannot be the only white
yeah.
kid walking around with that face named Peter Parker. Granted, his schoolmates will know and everybody around him, but come on, let's be real. It's New York.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's a it's a it but it makes sense for that, and it worked, and obviously we got one of the best MCU movies in my opinion in the next one. So
I agree, and I cannot wait to hear who you talk to about that one because that is one of my favorites.
yeah, no, definitely it's definitely top tier for me as well. So it's definitely going to be a fun conversation when I get to
Yeah.
it. So
And we also got to see, like you had mentioned before, that Fury wasn't really Fury in this whole movie, and we get to
yeah.
see Fury is kind of just chilling in space.
Yeah, yeah. Our first look at Fury in space, which we get more information on in both Secret Invasion and Captain Marvel. So,
Hmm.
um, but or not Captain Marvel, the Marvels.
The
Um,
Marvels.
which if anybody has not seen that movie, please go out and watch it. It is super fucking fun. And I think that you're missing out if you haven't seen it. And so it's a lot of fun, and you don't need to have watched WandaVision or Miss Marvel to get all the information that you need for this movie. They tell you enough to get into it, and if you want to go back and watch those later, you can.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
definitely need to go. I have not seen it. Don't
yeah,
get mad at me. I
I'm
just
not
haven't
mad at
seen
you.
it.
I know
No, I
there's
know.
people who just haven't had a chance to go see it and everything, and there's probably a lot of people who like look if it weren't for the fact that my kid works at a movie theater, I probably wouldn't be going to nearly as many movies as I do because I didn't before.
You're right.
When I would wait for most everything. The only things that I ever went to the theaters for were largely the Marvel movies. And
Right.
I've seen every Marvel movie in the theater. And so even other stuff that I love, um, like even Tarantino movies, I've not seen most of those in the theater. I've only seen a couple really. And so yeah, I've seen about half, I think, now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, I used to wait. And if Katrina no longer works at a movie theater, I'll probably have to wait again. I think that I'll probably just end up buying the AMC A-list
The
thing because
past, yeah.
it's like $20 a month and you get 3 movies a week.
Yeah,
So
I
it's a
definitely
really
would take
good
that.
deal. Yeah. So even if you only go to 2 movies a month, you make up your money easily because tickets around here for the nighttime showings are $15 each. So
Oh, get out of
ridiculous.
town.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So,
Oh
and
my
this is
gosh.
AMC. So,
I think it's
um,
funny though, our fellow podcaster, Ashley from podcast
yes,
616. I think she's seen it like 5 times already.
she's seen 5 or 6 times. Yeah, it's crazy. Like I
She
like the
loves
movie, and I
it.
wish I could go see it a couple more times for sure because it's a lot of fun. And so yeah, definitely if people can get out there and watch it. If not, it's going to be on Disney Plus soon.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
just watch it then, and show them that that people were wanting to watch it. It was just a bad time.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to use this as some object lesson. Even Bob Iger from Disney is trying to say, well, now we're going to scale back on sequels,
Oh my gosh.
because we're only going to do them when they really matter or whatever. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that, but this one was really good, and I think I think this is going to be one of those ones that is going to grow bigger over time, and people are going to discover it, and find that it was a really fun time. So
Yeah, I think everybody that has seen it, that I've spoken with, just they rave about how much fun it is. So I'm glad to hear that people are really enjoying it. The people who have gone to see it, at least, they
yeah.
really, really love this movie. So, um, do we have anything else to say about Spider-Man before we start going off on a different tangent? Oh,
I
Far
don't
From
think so.
Home.
I think I'm good. I think we kind of hit everything. It's just a lot of fun. It's like we said, it's kind of breezy. It's definitely the shortest by only a couple of minutes.
Hmm.
But it definitely feels like the first one to me is really good. But I feel like sometimes it meanders a little bit, not too much. But this second one, there's a lot going on, but it seems more focused, but also, like I said, it's breezy, it's fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And then, the last one obviously takes itself very seriously. Um, and has a lot going on in it. But this one's just fun because of that. It's just,
Hmm.
Peter in the middle of doing stuff. There are some heavy moments. Obviously, he's lost Tony, and he's dealing with the
Still
aftermath of
dealing with
that.
that. Right.
Yeah. And that's weighing heavy on him. But he's moving on. He's figuring things out. He's making mistakes still. He's a teenager. He's gonna make mistakes. Um, hell, I'm almost 50 and I'm still making mistakes. Um, so um, it's just a fun movie, and again, I love Tom Holland as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He does such a great job at it that I hope we get at least one more, if not a whole other trilogy out of him,
Yeah. I
before he
really
decides to
would like
actually
to
hang it up.
see I'd like to see another trilogy with him, yeah, before he
Yeah,
hangs it up. And then, like you said, seeing Mysterio was great because we rarely get to see that villain on screen or
yeah,
have anybody talk about him. And we always get the kind of same favorite
yeah.
villains, but
Green Goblin,
this
Venom, whatever.
right,
Yeah,
Doc Ock, yeah. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
this was really it was refreshing to see it. And like you said, for people who don't know about him, waiting to see that shoe drop and see the reveal and have people go, "Oh shit, this is not
Yeah.
really, he's a bad guy." Yes, he's a bad guy. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely needed. Like you said, the first film, this in this film he's getting his sea legs or spider legs, however you want to say it, and it's apparent that he fits in this character, and he makes him very much seem like a real kid, a real
Yeah,
kid that's trying to do the right thing, but he's a real kid that we root for. So I
absolutely.
really love this movie. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, same, very much. It's definitely one of my favorites. The all the Spider-Man movies are my favorites. Are some of my favorites in the MCU. So
Yeah.
it's nice to revisit them. They're definitely ones I go back and kind of put on in the background because they're comfortable. They're fun,
Yeah.
and I can put them on in the background, do some stuff, and enjoy them. So yeah,
Exactly.
definitely good fun. So all right. Well, that's all I have. Unless you have anything else, we can go ahead and wrap it up.
No, I think that's it. I think we covered, like you said, pretty much the whole gambit of the movie.
All right. Well, why don't you let people know where they can find you online?
All right. Well, I am on Twitter and I am on Instagram at Donna underscore the THA underscore dead. And I'm like Robert mentioned earlier, I do have my own podcast where I talk about horror movies and pretty much whatever the hell is on my mind. So don't peg me to horror movies. One week I might talk about something completely off kilter, but it is
This
mostly
is
horror
true.
that I love.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She throws out some weird stuff every once in a while,
I
but it's mostly
do.
horror. But yeah, no, it's always great to have you on. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I always will
Of
come a
course.
running whenever you call.
Good, good. I will definitely be calling you again soon. So, all right. Well, thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again to Donna for joining me. Next week are the last two episodes of 2023. On Monday, Christmas Day, the kids join me for a chaotic conversation about two holiday horror movies inspired by Silent Night, Deadly Night, the 2012 Silent Night and Christmas, Bloody Christmas. And on New Year's Eve, Donna is back for our annual Top 10 Horror Movies of the Year episode. Don't miss out on these last two episodes. Thanks for listening. Creepy and Geeky is a part of the Morbidly Beautiful podcast network. Please check out morbidlybeautiful.com/podcasts for more great shows. If you like what you've heard, please consider giving the show 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, please share the podcast on social media to help spread the word. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or at creepyandgeeky.com. Music for the podcast is Gratitude, composed by Jerry Smith. You can follow the podcast on social media at Creepy and Geeky on both Twitter and Instagram. If you'd like to follow me, I'm Geek Thulu on Twitter and Blue Sky, and geek.thulu on Instagram. You can support the podcast by ordering teas and more on TeePublic or by donating to the coffee page. All of the links are in the show notes. Finally, don't forget, stay creepy.